All right, welcome to the Sweet Talk. Today is Saturday, February 8th, 2020, and I am your host, Kim Matina. I am a Google certified trainer, a gold product expert in the Google for Education team, and a technology teacher. And today I have on two international guests. That's why I am here with you on a Saturday. I am so happy to have on my show today Darya Yegorina and Inna Armstrong. And I am going to let them introduce themselves because I feel that they deserve to do that, and I don't want to miss anything. So, welcome to the show, girls.
Thank you. So that's my pleasure to be here. My name is Darya, and I'm the international speaker, co-founder of the Clever Books company, who is working in the augmented reality for education. That's my passion and my dream to change the way we educate kids today, to make sure we have the all possible technologies at the early stage, because they develop digital skills. They help kids to be prepared for anything possible in the future, and I think that that's the most important, to deliver what we do with all our hearts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And Inna,
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you very much, Kim, for having me on the show. And I work also with Dario together at Clever Books. I'm one of the co-founders, and my passion is also lays in augmented reality landscape and specifically for the education sector. And my goals is to probably help the kids to get the necessary skills that would help them to be ready for the future workforce and also influence the change in the education landscape, and something that we really all need to have currently.
and it's funny because before we went live, I was talking to Ina, and we were talking about, the mindset of educators, and really we're not that much different, right? Even though we're international, you're from Germany, I'm from the US. It's not that much different. People feel the same way about education: the pressure, the stress, the passion, the rewards that we get out of it. And it's a common issue international with among educators and schools today. So I was happy to hear that you guys are experiencing some of the same issues that I am here in the U.S. Not that it's good or bad, but it gives us something in common, that we have a common cause to keep fighting the good fight.
Absolutely.
So, Daria, I was watching your TED talk about augmented reality yesterday, and I really found it interesting in a short amount of time. I think it was about 13 minutes. How many different aspects or points that you brought up from that TED talk? And the you started off as saying, when you were a child in Russia, you were learning from textbooks that were so old, and you don't even know if they were accurate at that point, and they were, you're reading pages and looking at pictures, and you just kind of sparked some type of interest in education for the future. Why don't you talk about that, and how you continue to down that road and that journey to help students today from your experiences?
Sure. So that's a part of my story, and the interesting part of the story is that, like all of us have stories, and why they do today what they have started with just an idea many years ago, and it might come out also from the childhood. So if we're talking about my story specifically, when I was a kid and I was studying at school, I've noticed that the books that I had were so old, and that my parents used to study with that books. And I remember, like, one day I was coming from school with the new books for the new year, and even my mom said, like, "Oh, that's the book I used to have as well." And I was like, "Oh." I mean, it's not that my mom is so old, but when you're a kid, everybody who is 30 plus seems to be like super old for you, and you're like, "Oh my god, the books are ages old. What can I learn from that?" And for me, school was always something that I can go to and I learn something new and something interesting and something that would be useful for the reality that I'm gonna face when I graduate from school. So that's why I was concerned already at that point of time that something is wrong there. And why would I be studying something that might not be useful for me, or something that didn't change for many, many years? So for me, it was the concerning point. And that's why in my TED talk, I mentioned that I decided, okay, I can change the world. And like a kid, how you can change the world? You can change the world at your level, means they can become a teacher and teach something different. So I decided to go and study for a teacher, and I did that for 5 years. And then at the fifth year, I went to school for the internship. That was a part of the program. And the funny part of that internship was that when I faced the same books I used to have at school, so they didn't change for 5 years, they didn't change for 50 years, 30 years, and 40 years. And I was like, oh my God, there is something wrong there. Then, as a teacher, you will have to do exactly the same because you can't change the books. So you need to do something different. And I was extremely interested in pursuing my career then in business, because I thought if you can't, you know, change something now, maybe you can create some sort of future that will be able to change the what's going on in different areas of like education and business and so on. So I went to work in business, and I was working for technology companies mainly. And then my interest was in the area of something new and emerging technologies like augmented reality. And that was like a spark. And I said, that could be something really useful, because we have so many technologies. We have mobile phones that could be used. We have tablets that could be used. Why don't we create something that is useful for the kids? So we created the free apps that are covering several subjects, and the kids can go and use them free of charge, absolutely, and make sure that they are learning something new. And I think digital skills is absolutely important, and that's why they need to communicate with technology anyway, due to the in day-to-day life at school. And also, what I thought a couple of years ago, that if we reflect at what the education was 30 or 20 years ago, when there was not that much invasion of technology and computers and so on, it was changing. The whole content of the education was changing, but was changing slowly. And if we can have a look right now what's happening, the speed of change has actually increased. It's times 3, 5, 10, and it's growing and growing, and there are so many new things coming up that we are not always following them. So how kids that are what they study today can apply that for the future? That's a big question.
Yeah, I agree. I think education has definitely evolved. Especially, it starts with the educator, the teacher in the classroom. The teacher, has to evolve with the times, try new things, have a growth mindset in order to bring these experiences to the students. I still think education is slower to catch up in some areas. Yes, I do agree with you that, they've become quicker from where we were to where we are now, but I still think we have a lot to do. But I feel it starts with the educator. Do you agree with that, Inna? Because you and I were talking about, having a growth mindset and taking risks before we went live, and it all starts with the one person in the room, and it's really methods and workflows and a mindset that needs to be utilized.
Right. I totally agree. And I think education more or less in the same space as, if you're a professional in business, because if you don't grow personally, you would not be able to catch up with everything that is happening, and mostly now in the digital age. So it's the same in the classroom. If the teacher is not following the new technology, adopting that, and also helping the kids to make the decision of how to choose the technologies that would help them with their learning and their personal growth, then it's quite difficult. for the education to actually move forward. So I think it is very important for every educator to really follow the current trends, to understand that the education, technology in education is absolutely inevitable. It's just going to grow. It's not going to disappear. And I think if you're a teacher and you have doubts about which technologies to use, etc., and now there are so many networks, Twitter or Facebook, the community of digital teachers who are sharing their experiences, etc. So I think it is important to follow, to understand, and also to apply in the classroom because, first of all, digital native kids, they grew up with technology, but the research shows that they don't really know how to differentiate technology, how to use the technology strategically. And again, that's where the teacher comes in, and kind of the responsibility to help the young learners to get on the right path, to understand how they can see which technology would help them and how to excel with the technology in the classroom as well and help their learning.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, the digital natives. They were born with the technology right in their hands. And I always say, like, I'm a technology teacher. I've always been into tech even when I was in high school, and it evolved from when I graduated high school. But even though these kids are born with the tech, that does not mean that they can use the tech, they can use their phones, they can use their tablets, but it doesn't make them good thinkers. It doesn't show that they can problem solve. It doesn't show that they have logical skills or logical thinking skills or computational thinking. So we can't assume just because they're digital natives that they're just born with all these skills. Like they definitely need nurturing with these skills.
And
These
they need guidance.
they do need the guidance.
Absolutely, because from what we see now, a lot of kids they consume using technology. The content is out there, but obviously the teachers and not only teachers but parents. The kind of responsibility is to show how to source the content they need, how to differentiate what is good, what is not good for you, and also to use the not consume the content but create with the content or find other strategies to be able to utilize the most innovative technology that is out there.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's hard, like, because I'm in middle school, and it's hard to teach middle school students a certain way when they've done it a different way for so many years. So when I get them, they're already ingrained in, the habits that they've been using. And I try to tell them, you have to collaborate. You have to look it up, Google it, try to figure it out, talk with your friends, look at the directions, read it over, watch the screencasts, and try to get the wheels turning and troubleshoot and debug and do different things so that they can be not only good users, but good investigators and good creators come out of that innovation. So I definitely agree with you there. So what type of, like, so you touched base on augmented reality education and how um, it targets all students of all students, all special ed students, multiple disabilities, and it satisfies all of the five senses of learning. That's what you were saying in your TED talk yesterday when I was watching it. So what type of augmented reality tools, and how would you recommend using them in, say, an ELA class?
Okay, so that's you actually reminded me of one thing that that the teacher and the growth mindset that you touched. I think that the most important thing is to make sure we inspire kids to do something with the existing technology. And inspire to do something is showing what the options are out there, and then saying like, okay, you first try to use what is out there, and then you come up with the idea how you can create. So there are different tools in augmented reality that could be used today. And like I absolutely love the way we say it, clever books, see, hear, and touch the knowledge with augmented reality, because that's exactly what happens. You can see what is in there in the screen. You can hear if there is any voiceover, and you can obviously touch because you're interacting with the content if it's a pre-designed one. So I think that the first and the primary school, they need more focus on the consuming of the content, so they can see what is out there, what people did to create the content, what kind of characters, what kind of ideas were implemented, and then they can move and go ahead and create their own stuff with the guidance of the teacher. And I think that the teacher, they having the growth mindset, he needs to be open-minded and able to try and willing to try all new tools and solutions to see what is suitable for his classroom. So having said that, there are a lot of content out there already created with the augmented reality, and there are a lot of tools where there could be augmented reality created by the kids inside the classroom, and then they can see the results of their work. And then the important thing is to not only just do something, but also reflect on what exists, what they have experienced, what kind of difficulties they face while doing that, and check if that's something they need to do to improve their work. Because you're absolutely right with saying that being digital native doesn't mean they have the skills, but all the teachers and parents are out there, and I like the analogy with the with the traffic lights, that we are not always with the kids in the street when they are walking in the street, but we teach them that they need to cross the street on the green light, and we hope that they're going to do that. So the same with technology. There are a lot of technology out there. We're not always with them sitting and looking over the shoulder what they're doing there, but we can teach them how to use it properly. So if, for example, I would say that I will give example of my daughter. I love it absolutely because she has tablets and phones and all possible tech as you can imagine with the techie mom. So what happens is she knows how to use it when she wants to play or install some app whatsoever. She's so smart to do that. But when she's looking for some information, she would come and say, "Oh, do you know this and this and this?" And I say, "Listen, you are using tech, so make sure you use it for your own purposes, for your own convenience, and so on. So how to use that? So if you're looking for some information, you can always ask Google, and you don't check one or two resources, you check several of them up to 10, compare the information, analyze it, and think what is actually common in all the information presented, what is different, and what is actually applicable to whatever you're looking for." Well, she's smart enough to do that with the with the voice from Google, and she came up with the idea. It's so cool. We have Google Home, and she said, "So cool! I can now ask, okay, Google, and tell me something," and the Google answers the questions. So she's applying the concept, which I actually meant. You open Google and you look something in the search by typing something. She applied. She actually turned up my concept of searching for the information into the voice one, which is absolutely fine. That's the way she is applying the skills that I'm trying to teach her on how to use tech. And I think the important part for all of us, teachers or students or professionals in business, we cannot know all the information with the way the world is developing right now and how quickly everything is growing and the amount of data that we have online, but we need to be able to find it. Easy as that. And this is the searching skills in the digital world, which is also needs to be taught to the digital natives.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think like with the Google Assistant, like I know in with some of the teachers that I've spoke to, they're hesitant in using the Google Assistant in the classroom because it tracks certain information and searches, and it's really not filtered. And well, the last time I tried it, it didn't work within the Google for Education
Mhm.
domain, so you'd have to set up a whole personal account for it. And I think I tend to agree with them, but then again, I think it's a tool that we need to have to teach the students. how to ask better questions. And then, if you don't find the answer, you don't hear the answer you want, you refine your question. So it's a tool to help the students ask those questions and get.
Exactly.
So,
That's
I mean,
brilliant point, by the way. Brilliant point, because Google will not be able to reply to your question if it's not correctly stated, actually. So, which is absolutely brilliant point on that.
yeah, and like, and I guess I'm kind of guilty of that too, because I'm hesitant about it because there's things that I have to be aware of when I'm dealing with students in my class, and I don't want to go against school policy as well. But then in the next sense, am I doing a disservice, to the students and having them not have that in my classroom? So, it's a touchy situation with any type of assistant device, but I do agree with you. You have to teach the students, how to search, um, whether you're typing the questions or you're asking the questions, analyze the information, compare the information. Don't just go by the first search result, always go through the search results and compare.
Exactly.
Because now at the last conference I went to, they were saying that the jobs for the future are going to be people that can analyze data and you know read the data, analyze it, and present it. And it's scary to see that students, not even being exposed to spreadsheets and data tables and graphs. So we have to do a better job and preparing them for that, because when people see spreadsheets or they see graphs or they see a huge data table, they get intimidated. you
They
know
start having panic attack.
they do, and it's you know, it's just I'm not sure, and I think again, I think it goes back to having some type of growth mindset, right? Like it goes back
Absolutely.
to having that flexibility where me personally, technology comes easy for me, so I'm not afraid to try new things. But for the educators that are, it can be scary for them. So like what do you say to how do you convince them to try new things and to step out of their comfort zone and to take a risk, like what do we do, how do we accommodate that concern?
But is
By
it
the way,
something that what, as a teacher, you actually teach the kids? Because every teacher says you can try, and if you fail, it's okay. So if it applies to students, obviously it has to apply also to the teachers himself. And they don't have to be afraid to try and fail, because even if they do, they can, as an example, show the students that it's okay to fail, and it's good learning point. And at the same time, you can maybe find another solution and try again and again until that works. So I think by giving personal example of not being afraid to fail, I really can help also some students and encourage them to again try and fail, but at the end actually get to the learning point they're trying to get.
Yeah, I mean, like I always tell the kids, like I'm not an expert. Like when they come into my class in the beginning of the year, I always say, I'm not an expert. We're here together and we're going to learn from each other, and if we need help, we will collaborate and we will look up the information and try to help each other. So it's a vulnerability that people don't want to let their students know that I don't know it all, and that's like something that people have to get over, because it's okay to ask students for help, because chances are they're going to be able to help you, and they may be able to give you a different perspective of that, of that issue or whatnot. So it's okay to ask them for help. It's perfectly fine. It's okay to let them see you, like you said, go through that fail-in process, because you are human and you're actually modeling how your thought process changes to try to figure out how to get the solution. So you're actually figuring it out, but you're modeling as well. So I do agree with that as well. Especially in our digital world today, we have to be able to take risks and to be able to show the younger generation, hey, this is what we do. We fail, but we get up and we try again.
Actually, I've noticed that my daughter, she's not into failing, and she would be the one who would say, like, I would do everything possible not to fail. And I say, you just treat it in the wrong way. It's not a fail, it's a learning point. And if you don't have those learning points, how are you supposed to learn what works and what doesn't work? If you have a look at all the inventors and everything that was happening, like the big inventions in the world, they happened because people were kept on trying and something didn't work, and they were persistent to get to what they thought it should work. And having that, I just realized that when I was in school, we were um, indirectly taught that doing something wrong is very bad. And it took me many years to make sure that it's not that. And it's right here, like in the head. And for me, it was very difficult experience. And that's something as the important skill, I think, that need to be taught at school as well. Technology or not technology, that they need to keep on trying different things and see what works for them, what doesn't work, and analyze as well why, to make sure they can do better next time.
Yeah, I agree. I think like again, it's just part of that whole design process, the learning process, showing the students, hey, you're not perfect, you can do this, look it up a different way. Failing is a learning opportunity, and if something works all the time, how are we going to know that, how to fix it when it does break? Like if everything is always working all the time the way it should be, yeah, that's great and everything. But then when it does break, like, how do you fix it? So, I yeah, it's challenging. It could be frustrating, but it tests your character, it tests your perseverance, it tests your patience. There's a whole lot of different things that come into a failing opportunity, and it's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to learn, and I can't stress that enough to the students and to tell teachers, hey, just take a risk and just try something. The students will respond, and you might be surprised how they take to it you know
They need to lead by example, like
yeah,
everybody says in business. Lead by example. Just tell them you can. You also learning from mistakes, and that's absolutely fine. If you don't do something straight away in a proper and correct way, that's absolutely fine. You're learning. And I
exactly.
think that needs to be applied everywhere in business and everywhere, because sometimes the great ideas, even in the company, they're not happening because people are afraid to tell them or to speak up, and they stay there with their ideas that might have been something like a breakthrough for a company, just because they are scared to share, that they are scared that's going to be implemented, and they are scared they're going to be failing with this idea, and then everybody will be pointing fingers. So that's, I think, it's also the attitude of society towards that. And I think that's something that is it's the mindset that needs to be a growth mindset that needs to be changed, to make sure that um, people are absolutely fine with learning points even from mistakes.
Yeah,
Absolutely, and I think that you excel only when you try. And if it doesn't work, try again. But that's all about the journey and to get to the result that you want to do. And you can't teach with old traditional methods the digitally innovative kids who need very different approach, very different skills to be able to actually fit the future workforce.
Yeah, I totally agree. So education and business really isn't that much difference then, right? Is that what
Exactly.
I'm hearing?
Yeah, but this needs to like for what kids are at school. They are at school not only to be able to calculate how much money they pay for something, but they are learning to become the future workforce. And to become the future workforce, they need to learn from the school how it works. And the principles are everywhere exactly the same. And if they are taught that making a mistake or not trying something or giving the going the way that is already proved and everybody did that, it's not going to lead to innovation. It's not going to lead to growth mindset, and it's not going to lead to something different and something that will be innovated, developed, and created in the future if everybody will be scared to do that. Ina, what do you think?
I totally agree. I totally agree, and I think that it's extremely important for every educator to be ahead of time, and not just to be ahead of time, but to really show by example, as we said, to how the students can excel, and by personal example, it's all this works.
So I just lost connection. I didn't hear anything you just said.
Which is absolutely fine. We were entertaining everybody while you were away.
Hey, that's tech, right?
Yeah, it always
Absolutely,
perfect when
again,
it works.
sometimes
So
it works, sometimes it doesn't.
this is true. This is true. And we didn't panic. We just got back on and pick up where we left off, right?
Sure.
It's funny. I know this past week, I'm a technology teacher in my school, so like I try to push in to the different classes where I am. And this week I had an MD class, an eighth grade MD class, come into my room, and the teacher wanted to take them through an AR and a VR tour using Google Expeditions. So she did a great job with them, preparing them for the tour and everything. The first tour we went on was about sharks, and they were so excited to explore the ecosystem and all the different shark species and where they are in the world. And then we went to the AR part. And the AR part, they explored ancient Rome, and they told me that they liked the AR tour much better than the VR tour. And it was interesting to hear that. You know, the kids have a whole different perspective sometimes. Like some of the kids, they would look at the object and they would, move around the room to take a different view on the object on the markers and stuff. But then they were getting creative, and they were trying to like pose with the object or like, hold the object in their hand. And they were trying to like, take pictures and selfies with the object, and it's just another way of them expressing that this is cool stuff and that they made the connection to their content. Like they were actually, of course they were exploring that part of it, but we bring it back to and make the connection to what's going on in the classroom. And you know it's just amazing to see the students really have that aha moment.
I think they always have aha moment with something new when they try the new technology, new app, new software, new something, and especially when it's entertaining, the way they can apply it, not only the way the teacher says, but also like you said, make selfie or take it in the hand and show off somehow. So for them, it's always something really great to experience, and that's new learning, and new learning is new inspiration. And one of the things that are the most important for me, why I'm doing the talks, why I'm speaking to people, why I'm participating in conferences, why I would be writing different books or together with the co-authoring, or why I would be doing the podcasts, or why I would be talking to other people about what I do, It's to inspire others. Because by inspiring others, you might say one word that might change their life completely, because it would be that aha moment that said, oh my God, I haven't thought of that before, but that's just what I want to do. And the more we inspire people around us, the better the world will be, because the more innovation will be, the more creativity will be around, and the more opportunities for other people to express themselves.
Yeah, and to go back to the beginning when you were talking about the augmented reality and it was a see and hear and a touch and experience, that's exactly what these kids had that day. So it was like, it all made, I mean, it all makes sense, but to hear you actually verify it in the TED Talk and mention it here today, it just does make you it does inspire you to continue to fight the good fight and do what you need to do to get the kids, basically creators and innovators and be that next batch of generation where they can be successful in life. Really, that's what the end goal is, right? To be successful in life, whether that's as a person or in their job market, or so that they can be a productive citizen in their life. So I really enjoyed our conversations. This was excellent. I learned so much. I took notes while we were talking because I really, to inspire people. You guys are doing that with me and with everything that you're doing, and I really appreciate you being on today and talking about your different ideas and perspectives on education and students and teachers, and because it's an important message, and anyone who's in education knows that this is it's crucial. So I appreciate you being on today. Thank you for taking the time for being on. I know it's the ending of your day there, but my day started here. So um, Daria, you're in Ireland,
Island.
right?
Yeah,
Ireland, right? And Inna, you're in Germany, right?
That's correct.
So yeah, so this was awesome. I really appreciate it. And we couldn't do this without the tech, right? So think of where we all came from. so
absolutely.
so where will it be, 5 years from now? It's not going to be the same, that's for sure.
Maybe the next podcast in 5 years we're gonna do in the holographic presence, you know.
There you go. That's
Because
probably in the works right now.
it exists. It exists. I've seen it already. It's just not super open to the wider public, and you still need a lot of equipment and stuff to make it happen. But I'm pretty sure with the development that going right now, it might be really, really the case quite soon.
Yeah, so that would be interesting. So it'll be kind of like Star Trek.
Exactly. Everybody's sitting at home, but we're represented on the stage somewhere in absolutely different country, like
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
that's life.
That's true. Got to keep moving with it, right? All right. Well, thank you again for being on. It was a pleasure. If you want to read any more information about Dario and Inna, their information and links to their website is in the show notes, which will be available on my website, thesweettalk.com. So let me share my screen real quick. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So if you go to thesweettalk.com, that's the SUITE talk.com, you'll come to the homepage. You'll see the latest episode here and podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on my show, please fill out the guest form. You can check out the schedule here as well on who's going to be coming up on my show. You can also find out any latest trending episodes, join the Facebook community. And also, one thing I want to mention is if you go to the episode page, you can find all of the past episodes and show notes here that were on the Sweet Talk. So, with that said, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, join the Facebook group, subscribe to my newsletter. Find me on Podbean, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Google Play Music. And with that said, I'm back. So again, thank you ladies for being on. It was such a pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
as well. Thank you.
You guys have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
You too. Bye.
Bye.